Another week, another reason to dislike Erika Jayne. Plus, was Kathy Hilton's big mid-season return worth the wait? We're going to get into all that and more, but first we want to start with Dorit for a change, who is FaceTiming Lisa Rinna as she is lasering her chin. Great. But we learned this is being shown to us because we need to know as viewers that a few of the girls tested positive for the virus going around, and that is why we will not see them present at Kyle's charity luncheon, the same place that we saw Kyle last episode prepping for some event, that it might be this one or another one, with imported snow during a drought in Los Angeles. But with that, we do teleport directly over to Kyle's house where legendary actress and Kyle's Halloween movie co-star Jamie Lee Curtis arrives in her normal fashion of appearing on the show throughout the years as supporting the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles alongside Kyle and Mauricio. Now, she clearly is a motherly, sisterly, aunt, friend figure to Kyle, reminding her this is about a charity, not your vanity, whether that be your house or your hair. When Kyle is all flustered about her roots being done and her house not being ready, whatever. But we learn the specific reason for this luncheon is to raise money for Jamie's foundation, My Hand in Yours, which gives all proceeds to CHLA, who we learn are building a new facility as a children's play area, which is great. But we then get some behind the scenes of show business from Jamie, sharing how she would attend business meetings over the years and go right for the seat in the boardroom with the good lighting, no matter who was there or who was sitting wherever where you're supposed to sit, which I think was a funny contradiction from their conversation they just had minutes before about not being there for the vanity. Funny how that works when you get two Hollywood actresses in the same room together. But after seeing Jamie meet the cast in an always interesting crossover of reality TV and Hollywood, which, side note, I was surprised this group hadn't met Jamie before. I'm guessing if Lisa Rinna or Garcelle were there, they would not be meeting Jamie for the first time. But also after Sutton bonded with Jamie over fashion and some musical chairs to avoid a Sutton-Diana clash on a very important occasion, coupled with Jamie noting this shift as possibly a warning on where the shots being fired could come from to avoid some ricochet shrapnel. And then a funny moment came up bringing this whole scene together of friendship and vanity, with Mama Jamie coming over to help Sutton repair Sheree's eyelash with eyelash glue at the table for everyone's enjoyment. But Dorit, fighting for her seat at the table, literally on the show and just in general in this friend group, goes in to ask Diana quietly at the other end of the table how her lunch went with Sutton, which we just saw last episode. Now, Diana says it was terrible, and I will completely agree with that, but Diana has to add she is quote-unquote repulsed by Sutton and says she quote-unquote honestly went home to scrub herself, but then adds she doesn't know how to explain it other than Sutton offended her space. I thought this was a little dramatic from Diana, but she clearly knows her audience, but also doesn't seem to remember cameras are on her and have been in most of these scenes she's recounting to Dorit. So maybe Dorit and some of the cast wasn't present at that lunch, but unfortunately for her, they're all getting caught up either via producer in their ear or they will see it on the show very soon. Not a smart play by her. Jamie then steps in, shifting the mood back to charity, sharing all the items for sale on her charity website, where Kyle points out how over the top Dorit is being, complimenting all these items, giving off a desperate for a best friend vibe with Jamie. The notable weird comment was Dorit calling the chandelier you see pictured here chic. Interesting. But everyone else is just smiling and laughing and nodding along, not really saying anything. But we do get another lip lick from Diana in this scene, which was finally acknowledged on Watch What Happens Live by Andy Cohen after many of episodes. So I'm glad he's finally picking up on what we have been talking about for many, many weeks now. But then we have Kyle sharing kind of uncomfortably, which I kind of understand, about her $25,000 donation in her and Jamie's name to CHLA. Now, Diana says she is going to match this, but Dorit seems to be more excited to receive a gift bag at this charity event than to give out of her own pocket. Just an observation, but a very interesting one to me. I'll just leave it at that. But after Jamie exits stage left before things go left, very smart on her behalf, Dorit sits with Sheree and Sutton to ask Sutton's side of the lunch story, where Sutton starts with describing Diana as angry. Fair. But Sheree plays devil's advocate, asking Sutton why she thinks she is always in trouble. Sutton answers by saying she thinks it's because she is always speaking her mind, but maybe she should be quiet more often because it seems to get her in trouble. But then also adds if she is quiet more often, then they will call her out for not speaking up. So Sutton really can't win in this group, and we've seen this overall. So I would much rather have Sutton be speaking up all the time and getting into messes than to be quiet and be stepped on. That's all I'm going to say for now. But Sheree then adds Diana maybe taking Sutton's approach worse in this moment because she's in a low moment in her life regarding the miscarriage. But Dorit steps in to correct Sutton, saying, well, you didn't directly question the miscarriage, but you did question the bed rest as a result of the miscarriage. And maybe you should have started with, I understand you because I went through that too, before questioning her bed rest situation, which I think is fair on Dorit saying that. But Dorit then confesses, echoing what Diana said about Sutton making it about herself all the time, with a flashback to Sutton's reaction to the robbery earlier this season. And she seems to think that Sutton isn't learning from her mistakes. Now, I would disagree on that because Sutton and everyone else's, maybe minus Garcelle, they don't agree on what Sutton actually made a mistake over. Some things Sutton doesn't think are mistakes, others do, and vice versa. So Dorit may be saying she doesn't learn from her mistakes, but I disagree. Anyways, it's at the downstairs bar, which is a frequent character in scenes filmed at the Umansky household. Conversation turns to a recent post from Crystal on Instagram sharing her continued struggles with an eating disorder. And she shares with Diana and Kyle she is still searching for what triggers her regarding her eating disorder, and adds, with suggestion from Kyle, she thinks it has a lot to do with control. Now, Crystal confirms she eats very little and then throws up whatever little she does eat, where then Kyle uses this as a moment to remind us about her own eating disorder she shared on a trip many years ago on the show, adding she thinks that post from Crystal was a cry for help. I will react to that in a moment, but Crystal then continues sharing with the girls. She wakes up thinking about what she recently ate, thinking to herself she has overconsumed and is envious of people when they eat things in front of her without all the guilt. But then she confesses the eating disorder started when she was 11 years old, citing her school pictures of always being in the back row and tall as part of her self-image challenges, but also adds her being a minority and looking different just added another layer to it, where she then emotionally forces out saying she has worked hard to accept how she looks, even though it is very difficult. And we end with Crystal sharing with Diana and Kyle that she feels like it sucks to be in her body feeling like shit all the time. And Diana then offers a hand of comfort while also saying, oh, I'm so sorry, and I know how much you love food, which I had to rewind a couple of times because I couldn't believe she actually said that. But at the very least, the way she said it was a little more sympathetic and had a little more emotion to it. Maybe her delivery wasn't exactly what she meant, but it just sounded kind of, I don't know, kind of superficial. But this is where Kyle then hugs Crystal as she is shedding a tear, saying she just wants to eat a meal and be okay with it. And then echoes in her confessional what she said last season of fearing passing this down to her own kids, where Diana and Kyle try uplifting her, praising her for sharing openly about it, hopefully as a healing, helpful mechanism. Now let's break this down. So Kyle then confessed at the end of this scene, her seeking help helped her overcome her challenges and also allowed her to be able to share with her kids what she went through in hopes it would educate them and prevent them from having the same issues. And that all seemed very harmless, but I can see how Kyle comes off as a hypocrite here because she was siding with Diana about Sutton making everything about herself just recently, but then here she is with Crystal sharing a sad thing about her life, and Kyle's first thought was to redirect to talking about herself. I also get Kyle saying it is a cry for help to post on Instagram and is an outlet to ask for help, unlike her upbringing where there was no social media and didn't have a public platform like that to share about it. But it does add to that hypocrisy of the one-up of trauma, similar to how Sutton shared of her two miscarriages after Diana shared about her one recent one. So let me know what you thought of this whole scene. I know I'm filming this when a couple more episodes had already aired, so maybe if you want to save your thoughts for a few episodes, that's okay. But at this point, that is my thoughts on this whole thing. I know this is going to come up again later. But now both groups come together in the living room to continue debriefing Sutton and Diana's lunch from last episode. And we come to the conclusion, or at least the group does, that they are not ready to make up all the way at this point, where Diana shares that the baby she lost would have been due very soon, and that is adding to a lot of her being, before adding the reason she went to Mexico with the girls was to escape the thoughts of counting down the days before she would have given birth, and admits it was a mistake to have tequila on the trip, as she said it actually thinned her blood out and maybe it led to the bleeding on the way home. And then we get a flashback to the trip where Diana said the tequila was the thing that made her sleepy, and that is why she shouldn't have done it or taken the tequila, but then in the same breath, in the same scene, asks for a glass of wine. So it does appear at this point Diana was covering up, if she's being truthful, was covering up what was really going on because she didn't want to kind of make herself the center of attention or have people worried about her. But it does appear at this point at the Kyle house luncheon that everyone is, including Sutton, is being sympathetic to Diana, and she's sharing this very openly. It looks like everyone's receiving it very well. But she adds, on the way back was when the bleeding happened from Mexico, and she blamed herself for that, admitting, though, that her rude message to the group may have been fueled by that, but also says she's just trying to do her best, and everyone seems to be receiving that very well. But Kyle then steps in with agreement from the ladies that they weren't really aware how recent the miscarriage was. Now remember, Diana shared with Kyle first about the miscarriage on camera before they even went on the trip on a one-on-one, and that was before the text after the trip to the group. But after this, Diana confesses, although she was going through a lot and maybe she overreacted, Sutton did hurt her by talking to her like she should not. Sutton then says in person she really was trying to connect with Diana and admits to their rocky start and admitting to 95% fault of that, which was warmly received by Diana, and they end with a truce and also agree to take some space and a time out from each other before any reattempt at a friendship. But now let's continue on to part of the cast I almost forgot existed for a moment, Lisa, Rinna, and Erika, Jayne, Girardi, who are checking in with each other as they recover from the illness, one being Rinna decorating her Christmas tree and Erika just chilling on the couch. But both say they are looking forward to Diana's Christmas party as their first post-quarantine outing. But they also start sharing the bittersweet taste of this holiday season as Rinna is experiencing her first holiday post Lois passing, and Erika interestingly sharing her mourning the end to creating new memories with Tom and her son. But they quickly pivot to talking about Erika and Tom gracing the cover of Los Angeles magazine for their infamy, we should add, where Erika plays the victim, saying they dehumanized her by blaming her for being ambitious. And other than that, she says they revealed nothing new. But she adds she has spoken to Tom since her positive test results, and he asked her if she was okay, where Erika confesses sometimes the conversations are good and sometimes they are not so good, adding she is relieved he is in a safe home, but also reiterates what she shared at the end of last season in Del Mar about her knowing this is just the beginning of a very rapid downward spiral for him, and cites her experience with her grandmother having been in a home at the end of her life. But on the divorce front, Erika shares she can't get a divorce right now because of all the other legal problems, and then laughs in her confessional saying she would rather stay married but separated because it means she would not have to pay alimony. Basically what Erika's saying is she ended up getting royally screwed in this whole arrangement after probably thinking when she got married that she would end up getting a lot of money out of this and becoming better off at the end. But at best, Erika got played by Tom, and at worst, she joined his game along the way, which ended up screwing both of them. Sucks to suck, but let me know what you thought of this whole scene of her confessing this thing. But then we see Asher and Diana arrive to the house they have been seen living in on the show so far, and they arrive this time as if they are guests in their own house, which at first I thought it was weird as they were doing that, but then we realized, okay, they're planning a Christmas party at the house. And then I remembered she shared she had multiple homes in the Los Angeles area, so she was probably able to live in the other house while they were getting this house prepped for the party. But Diana confesses she wasn't used to growing up celebrating Christmas because war-torn Yugoslavia was a communist country where religious holiday celebrations were not allowed. But this contributes now to her over-the-top celebration because she lives in America and she can. But we learn that Asher is the sensible one in the relationship, despite him being much, much younger. But then, all of a sudden, we get the re-entry of Kathy Hilton back to the show after half a season off, where we see Paula, one of her staff members, as Kathy is still wearing her sunglasses inside. And then we see her sister Kyle arrive to Kathy's newly overlaid house with Architectural Digest approved holiday decorations. And they sit outside in that same place as Kyle's parenting breakdown last season, to Kathy saying getting hold of Kyle is like trying to pull a hemorrhoid out of a bull's tush. Okay, I guess Kathy isn't wasting time sharing her Kathyisms this season, is she? But they have some sisterly banter about who has been trying to reach who. But Kyle, as a housewife veteran professional, has her receipts ready and pulls out the text messages. And then Kyle shares that Kathy actually has to comment on Kyle's public Instagram post to tell her to call her. And we learn the reason we can't get a hold of Kathy, or Kyle can't, is because it's been 10 plus years, allegedly, since any of her messages or voicemails have been checked at her house phone or on her cell phone, so her inbox is full. Funny, but not shocking. But then we get confirmation, like at the reunion last season, that the lady from last season we saw before departing for Del Mar at the end of the season is in fact Paula, who, remember, Kathy clarified this at the reunion, that she didn't call her the lady to dehumanize her like many want to paint this as. It was because she didn't know if she was supposed to use or allowed to use Paula's name at that point. But after more silly banter about the baked potato being their meal and Kathy shoveling the caviar on her potato, Kathy asks Kyle for help because Kathy is so overwhelmed after wrapping so many gifts and can't deliver them all without help. Plus, the ribbon shortage has her in a tizzy. Oh, poor Kathy. But we end with, not really, but we end with Kathy blaming humans for pee stains on all of her furniture and everything in her house, not her dogs. Are we shocked? And this scene was a mess, but in the most Kathy Hilton way. But it also reminded me why we have / need Kathy on the show, which is to lighten the mood amid many serious storylines continuing this season from the last, and of course some additional ones new to this season. And if this scene is any indication, then it was well worth the wait, in my opinion, to have her back. But we will see more from Kathy this episode and many more to come. But now we are ready for Diana's Christmas party, even though the guest list is smaller due to the state of the world. But there was this neat drink I wanted to point out that Diana showed, which is a drink inside of a Christmas bulb ornament inside of a martini glass, which I thought was a really cool idea. Just thought I want to share that with you in case you missed it. But then the standard getting ready with the girls FaceTimes has us learn that Dorit isn't coming to the party because she just tested positive, which is funny foreshadowing considering in the opening scene she said she hadn't tested positive yet after learning of other people's positive tests, but they probably edited that on purpose. But Erika's glam conversation includes being wafted by something called gay magic. Okay. And sharing she is still going to have a few drinks despite recent trouble she got in due to that, specifically regarding Garcelle and her kids. But all right, the party finally starts and we see the first arrivals of Diana's beautiful daughter and her son and his girlfriend, who we all saw last episode. And they were all subject of much speculation. I touched on in last episode's members extra recap and react, so you have to check that out on the channel member tab and page to become a member. But before the full group arrives, Erika has no problem saying she is going to drink, but stops herself short of saying she won't repeat the Garcelle incident. Are we shocked at this point? I mean, I don't think we are, but Crystal suggests maybe Erika can stay the night this time since it is a home of a friend, not a restaurant. I'll have more on that later in the potentially next episode. But at the bar, Erika Jayne, of course, has to slide in some sexual innuendos, but this time it was prompted by the drink named Nerogasm, which is in reference to Diana's Nero drink business, which has some health claims some have been questioning. I'll just say that, but it was nice product placement, similar to how she placed that product in Asher Monroe's music videos of late or of the past, and I will have more on that in the next episode recap because I did watch that one, but I haven't fully put it together yet, and I have some interesting thoughts on Asher and this whole Asher Diana thing, but we'll get into that in a moment. But Sheree adds she hasn't orgasmed, speaking of near orgasm, in a year and a half, to a thunderous laugh out of Diana and Erika. So clearly Sheree knows her audience in this one and is playing up to it very well. But Fashion Talk has Crystal bonding with Diana's kids over her little daughter's liking of her green outfit, which is reminiscent of the green Grinch look, and Rinna comparing suits with Asher. But Kyle then arrives with a gift in hand, thanking Diana for her charitable donation, while also dropping the news Sutton has also tested positive, so she will not be arriving either, on top of Dorit already canceling. But drinks, including product placement of Nero, like I just mentioned, has Erika asking Diana's son if he is married. Really, Erika? Really? You're not even going to hide it anymore? Clearly, she has not learned lessons from the last few episodes. But again, are we surprised? I am not. But at this point, like I said in the intro, she is making it very, very easy to continue disliking her. That's all I'm going to say for now. But finally, Kathy arrives to her first group event of the season where Diana confesses she only knows Kathy as Paris Hilton's mom, not as a friend figure. And we learn Diana's son was the one who actually knows Paris well, and that's the connection between all of them. But Kathy then calls Crystal an emerald elf, which of course you gotta love Kathy, her Kathyisms in funny ways. But we then get the re-entry after her quarantine of the one and only Garcelle Beauvais, who arrives with the sparkly unicorn stuffed animal for Diana's daughter, even though Garcelle confesses she hasn't forgotten how Diana treated her at her own birthday party. Now we then get a glimpse of the strong connection between Garcelle and Kathy, which I think will be a very interesting one to follow going forward and the rest of the season if the rumors of what is about to unfold the rest of the season are true. But Garcelle somewhat breaks the fourth wall, saying to Kathy on camera, "I'm happy you are back." Just proving Garcelle gets it, that it's a game, it's a show, there's politics involved, and probably a little precursor to how these two are going to team up in some way. Garcelle then greets Crystal with a "hello legs" and then adds, "you look really thin," turning the conversation sort of dark, where Crystal says thank you, but I don't feel thin or not thin, where Garcelle tries redirecting, getting Crystal to just say thank you without a but. But Erika presses further about the weird vibe from Crystal, where Crystal echoes what she did earlier in the episode where these two girls were not present, adding that the holidays are tough in particular because it is a very food-centric and party-related holiday. But Erika then prefaces her next comment with,
"Pardon me, I'm going to be very ignorant for a second,"
as if that makes it any better. But instead of stopping herself and admitting she is about to step in a pile of poop, proceeds to ask Crystal if it is an issue of preventing yourself from eating or eating and feeling bad, which Crystal confirms the former, which, okay, that wasn't that bad of a question at this point, but in true Erika form, she has to make it even worse by suggesting Crystal does what she does and take laxative to get rid of it, after hesitating to say it, mind you. So she clearly knew she was stepping in some weird territory, but proceeded anyway. Now here's where things get even more fishy. We then get an edit of Crystal and Garcelle reacting to something Erika said with a concerned, "wow." Each one seemed a little out of place. Each wow from Crystal or Garcelle, they were different frames and different angles, so I don't know what they were saying wow to, but they didn't seem angry. It seemed more of a concern to what Erika was saying, and we didn't see her in the frame, so I don't know what's going on with that. But even though that seemed a little edited, Garcelle did confess her shock that Erika would mention a laxative to someone talking to you in that moment about an eating disorder recent struggle. But for now, things seem to be okay, because a moment later, Garcelle is making her rounds away from Erika and Crystal. But you can see in the background here that Crystal and Erika seem to still be talking, and the editors and the producers clearly picked up on that and let us rejoin this conversation with just them two, where we hear Erika continuing to ask Crystal questions, where Crystal shares the relief she feels when she purges herself of the food she just enjoyed ingesting, followed by the guilt, where Erika adds even more, sharing how she would rather poop out food than vomit it, seemingly completely unaware of Crystal's type of eating disorder she just shared all about. where Crystal confesses she is confused if Erika is trying to be helpful or maybe she's just drunk and not really thinking or having a filter, which I thought was a great question by Crystal. And clearly she's trying to give Erika the benefit of the doubt, but I think she really knows the answer here. But they end with Erika asking if Crystal ever sought treatment for this, and Crystal shares she hasn't, but she needs to now, where Erika supports her in that decision because she thinks a better Crystal will come out of it. Okay, I think that's a really great way to look at it. Very positive, very supportive. But for the 1000th time, it seems within minutes, and definitely this season, Erika, I think, puts the final nail in her coffin and appears to send an up to this point very patient Crystal over the edge by taunting her with a barbecue ranch chicken tender, holding it up and leaning in as Crystal approaches, saying,
You can't have this.
and Erika asking then for another drink. And we get a to be continued, followed by Bravo and the Housewives franchise putting up some information on how you can get help if you would like to address an eating disorder challenge. Since we are going to be seeing this play out in the next few episodes, and I will be reacting to the after show from Bravo in the members extra, which will be linked down below when that's ready. I'm just going to give a few more initial thoughts than I already have. First, I think this episode having some cast not attending due to sickness, separating the group by quarantine, I think helped create a lot of drama because Crystal here had to rehash her eating disorder conversation she had at Kyle's with Diana and Kyle to Garcelle and Erika, who were not present at the time. But you can tell Garcelle walked away when Erika kept going with Crystal because she could see this was going downhill very quickly, just like at her birthday party, and likely did not want to ruin Diana's party the way Diana ruined hers with some instigated side drama. However, I don't think Garcelle is 100% innocent in this because she did start with Crystal by saying and commenting on her appearance, greeting her as "hello legs." So I can't completely dismiss Garcelle from this. I'm not sure if it was just a coincidence that she talked about this or said something about her appearance after we saw Crystal at Kyle's talk about her recent struggle with her eating disorder, or Garcelle was filled in on that conversation and maybe was told to kind of poke a little bit with Erika present and kind of see what happened. And that on that front, Erika, though, continues to show a lack of self-control, negating any progress, whether it's provoked or not. She has control, should have control over herself and prevent herself from making things worse. I will be curious to see how this plays out in the next few episodes. But until then, I will see you, channel members, in the extra recap and react for the extra tier and higher members. And I want to thank you for having me in your online life. As always, if you missed any episodes or any videos from this season so far on my channel, playlists are on the screen or description on YouTube, or you can click around the channel wherever you are tuning in from, and I will see you next time.